The gate was not there the last time I drove to the cabin. That was the first thing I thought when my headlights hit the steel bars. It was a Friday night, just after a hard rain, and the creek below my cabin had a habit of rising fast when storms came from the north. I had left work early, packed a flashlight, rubber boots, a toolbox, and a small pump because the crawl space under the cabin had flooded once before. I was tired, wet, and only thinking about one thing: get to the cabin before the water did. Then I came around the bend and saw a brand new security gate blocking the road. Steel frame, keypad, camera, red access light, fresh concrete posts. A small guard booth with a Ravenwood Hills logo on the window, and a sign bolted to the center of the gate. Ravenwood Clubhouse Road, residents only. My cabin was half a mile past that gate. My cabin was not in Ravenwood Hills. My cabin had its own parcel number, its own tax bill, its own insurance, and a recorded access easement that existed before Ravenwood Hills had a clubhouse, pool, event lodge, tennis courts, or a board president who thought a keypad could erase a deed. I rolled down my window and told the security guard I needed access to my cabin. He asked for my resident decal. I said I was not a resident. He said then I could not enter. I explained that I owned the cabin behind the gate and had deeded access over that road. He looked at a printed list, shook his head, and said the HOA president had directed security not to allow non-residents past the gate without pre-approved guest registration. Guest registration. To reach my own cabin. Then Karen arrived in a golf cart, wearing a rain jacket with the Ravenwood Hills logo stitched over the chest. She looked annoyed, not concerned, like I had interrupted the smooth launch of her new security system by needing access to property I already owned. I told her the creek was rising and I needed to check my cabin. She said the Clubhouse Road was now a secure resident-only amenity corridor. I told her my access was recorded. She said, "Your old cabin paperwork doesn't override our security gate." That sentence was the reason I started recording. Karen told me I could apply for guest access, pay the annual road maintenance fee, and request approval 48 hours before each visit. I told her again that I was the owner, not a guest. She said if I tried to tailgate a resident, bypass the gate, or enter without authorization, she would call the sheriff for trespass and security breach. So I did not force the gate. I did not ram it. I did not cut the chain or climb around it. I filmed the keypad, the camera, the sign, the guard, Karen's face, and the red light glowing between me and my cabin, because Karen thought her gate had locked me out. 3 days later, my Injunction locked down their Clubhouse Road. The cabin was never fancy enough for Ravenwood Hills. That was probably why they hated it. It sat beyond the Clubhouse Road, down near the creek line where the trees grew thicker and the ground stayed damp after storms. It had cedar siding darkened by weather, a tin roof that sang when rain hit it, a screened porch with one corner slightly lower than the rest, and a stone chimney my father repaired twice, but never replaced because he said old stone deserved patience. My grandfather used it first as a hunting cabin. My father turned it into a weekend escape. I inherited it as a responsibility before it ever felt like a gift. It was small. 2 rooms, a loft, a wood stove, a pump shed, a narrow gravel pull-off, and a path down to the creek. Nothing about it belonged in a luxury brochure, but every board had a memory attached. My father taught me how to split kindling there. My mother planted ferns along the porch steps. I spent more summer nights than I can count listening to rain hit that tin roof and thinking the world could be loud everywhere else as long as it stayed quiet there. The cabin parcel was separate from Ravenwood Hills. That was not a feeling. That was a record. The deed described the parcel. The tax bill came directly to me. The insurance was in my name. The access easement was recorded. The old plat showed the gravel road corridor running from the county road, past what later became the Ravenwood Clubhouse area, and down to the cabin. The developer came years after my family. When Ravenwood Hills was being planned, the developer wanted to use the same old road to reach the clubhouse and recreation area, because it was the easiest route through the woods. My father agreed to limited shared use, but only with clear language. The cabin owner kept permanent vehicle access. The road could not be obstructed. No fees could be imposed on the cabin owner's access. The HOA could not convert the corridor into exclusive resident-only use. Any gate, barrier, or security improvement had to preserve cabin access. My father was not a lawyer, but he had enough experience with developers to know that the problem is never the promise made on day one. The problem is the board that forgets the promise 10 years later. For a long time, it worked. Ravenwood residents used the road to reach their clubhouse, pool, tennis courts, and event lodge. I used the road to reach my cabin. Sometimes people looked at my truck like it did not belong, but nobody stopped me. I was not asking to use their clubhouse. I was not parking in their lot. I was not attending pool parties. I was driving past them to property my family had owned before their amenity zone existed. Then Ravenwood Hills got wealthier. The clubhouse was remodeled. The pool deck expanded. The event lodge started hosting private parties. The tennis courts became pickleball courts because every HOA eventually discovers pickleball. Residents complained about outsiders near the amenity area. Outsiders. That meant me. Karen became HOA president by promising safety, privacy, and resident-only access. She said the clubhouse road had become vulnerable. She said non-resident traffic created liability. She said Ravenwood needed modern security standards. At first, it was just language. Then came the newsletter. Clubhouse security upgrade. Automatic gate. Keypad. License plate reader. Camera system. Security booth. Resident decals. Visitor pre-registration. I emailed the management company the same day. I asked whether my recorded cabin access would be affected. They replied, "All authorized users will be accommodated." That sounded reassuring, only if you had never dealt with an HOA. I asked for details. Would I receive a code? Would the gate be open for my parcel? Would security be informed that I was an owner with recorded access? Would there be any fees? No clear answer. Just another sentence about policy development and board review. Then the storm came. And the first time I needed the road urgently, the gate was already closed. Rain changes the cabin road quickly. The upper section drains well, but the lower bend near the creek holds water, and if leaves clog the culvert, runoff backs toward the crawl space. I had learned that the hard way one spring when 6 inches of muddy water got under the cabin and ruined insulation, tools, and half a stack of firewood. So when the rain kept falling that Friday, I did not wait. I drove out after work with the truck loaded and called ahead to no one because I had never needed permission to reach my own cabin. The new gate stopped me cold. The security guard was young, maybe mid-20s, wearing a black rain shell with security printed on the back. He looked uncomfortable as soon as I explained why I was there. That told me he knew this was not a normal visitor situation. He asked for my name. I gave it to him. He checked the list. Not approved. I told him my name would not be on a resident list because I was not a resident. I was a property owner with recorded access. He said the instruction was residents only, pre-approved guests only, no exceptions without HOA authorization. I asked him to call the manager. He called Karen. She arrived in the golf cart 10 minutes later. By then, rain was tapping on my windshield. The red gate light was glowing, and every minute felt like water moving closer to my cabin. Karen did not ask about the creek. She asked why I was attempting to enter Ravenwood property after security hours. I told her I was attempting to access my cabin. She said the road was part of Ravenwood's Clubhouse security zone now. I told her the road was subject to a recorded access easement. She said the HOA had modernized access controls. I said modernization did not eliminate deeded access. She said all non-residents needed to register 48 hours in advance. I said I was not a guest. She said I was not a Ravenwood member. I said membership had nothing to do with my cabin. She handed me a printed policy. Guest access request. Annual road maintenance fee. Proof of insurance. Vehicle registration. Limited access window. Security compliance. 48-hour approval. I asked her where in the deed it said my access could be turned into a guest privilege. She said the board had adopted the policy because of liability concerns. I asked again where the recorded document allowed it. She said, "Your old cabin paperwork doesn't override our security gate." The guard looked away when she said it. That was when I started recording. I asked Karen on camera if she was refusing me access to my cabin during a storm. She said she was refusing unauthorized entry through a secure resident amenity road. I asked if she understood I owned property behind the gate. She said that did not give me the right to bypass Ravenwood security. I asked if she would open the gate so I could inspect possible water damage. She said I could submit a request. Then she warned me. If I tailgated a resident, if I followed another car through, if I tried to walk around the gate, if I interfered with the keypad, if I damaged the camera, if I entered Ravenwood's amenity corridor without authorization, she would call the sheriff. I called the sheriff first. A deputy arrived about 30 minutes later. By then, it was fully dark. Karen told him I was trying to force entry through a resident-only security gate. She said the HOA had adopted a safety policy. She said the Clubhouse Road was private Ravenwood property. She said my cabin was an outside parcel, and I needed to follow guest procedures like any other non-member. I showed the deputy photos of my deed and access easement on my phone. He read what he could, but he said he could not force the gate open that night without a court order in a civil access dispute. He did document the incident. He told Karen not to escalate. He told me to contact an attorney immediately. That was all he could do. I drove home without reaching the cabin. The rain kept falling the whole way. That was the part I could not forgive. Karen was not just making a rule. She was gambling with my property to prove she controlled a gate. I called my attorney from the truck before I reached the county road. His name was Paul Whitaker, and he had handled property easement disputes for half the people in our area at one time or another. I told him Ravenwood had installed a security gate and refused access to my cabin during a storm. He asked one question. "Do you still have the recorded easement?" I said yes. He said, "Send it tonight." I did more than that. I went home, pulled the cabin file, and spread everything across my kitchen table while rain ticked against the windows. The deed, the recorded access easement, the old plat, the tax parcel, the developer agreement, my father's correspondence with the original developer, cabin insurance, maintenance receipts, photos of the cabin road from prior years, emails with Ravenwood management, the Clubhouse security newsletter, the vague, "all authorized users will be accommodated" response. Photos of the new gate. Video of Karen refusing access. Video of the security guard saying non-residents were not allowed. Photos of the keypad, license plate camera, resident-only sign, guard booth, and red access light. Weather records. Rainfall totals. A contractor estimate from the last time water damaged the crawl space. Paul called me early the next morning. His voice was calm, but I could hear the anger underneath it. He said the easement was clear. Permanent vehicle access to the cabin parcel. No obstruction. No fee imposed by the developer, successor, or association as a condition of cabin access. No conversion of the access corridor to exclusive resident use. Reasonable security measures allowed only if they preserved continuous access for the cabin parcel owner. Ravenwood had done the opposite. They had installed a gate, created a resident-only policy, imposed guest registration, demanded a fee, and refused access during a storm. Paul pulled county records that morning. The cabin parcel was not part of Ravenwood Hills. It was not subject to Ravenwood CC&Rs. I owed no dues. The access easement remained recorded. There was no amendment allowing the HOA to charge a road maintenance fee or require 48-hour permission. Then he checked the gate permit. That was where Ravenwood's problem got worse. The county file described a clubhouse security upgrade for resident access control. It did not clearly disclose that the gate would block a recorded access corridor serving a non-HOA cabin parcel. There was no separate accommodation plan for legacy cabin access. The gate layout put the keypad, camera, booth, and barrier across the shared road corridor. The surveyor confirmed it that afternoon. The gate was not merely near the access route. It was across it. The guard booth, sign, camera pole, and gate arm were installed inside the corridor where my access rights had to be preserved. Paul sent an emergency demand letter. Open the gate. Provide permanent access code and remote. Withdraw the fee. Withdraw the guest registration requirement. Stop calling the cabin owner a trespasser. Preserve all communications about the gate, security policy, access list, and cabin parcel. Respond by noon. Ravenwood's management company replied at 11:54. The board would review the request at its next meeting. That was not an answer. That was a delay. Paul filed for a temporary restraining order and preliminary injunction that afternoon. He attached the deed, easement, plat, gate photos, video of Karen, weather records, county permit file, and sheriff incident report. The judge heard the emergency request Monday morning. Ravenwood's attorney argued safety. Paul argued access. Ravenwood said the gate was a reasonable security improvement. Paul said a reasonable security improvement does not lock the owner out of his own property, impose unauthorized fees, and require 48-hour guest approval. Ravenwood said the road served the clubhouse. Paul said it also served my cabin, and that was the entire point of the recorded easement. Then he said the sentence that carried the hearing. Security is not a license to erase a deed. The judge granted temporary relief. Ravenwood had to restore immediate reasonable access to my cabin, stop enforcing guest registration or fees against me, and stop treating me as a trespasser when using the recorded corridor. But the order had one more consequence Karen had not expected. Because Ravenwood's gate system was built as resident-only access, with no legal accommodation for my parcel, the HOA could not operate the clubhouse road as installed until compliance was corrected. Their gate had locked me out. The injunction forced their clubhouse road into restriction. The sheriff's civil deputy served the injunction at the gate just after lunch. I was there with Paul. Karen was there too, along with the security guard, the management representative, a gate contractor, Ravenwood's attorney, and 2 board members who looked like they had slept badly. The deputy read the order and handed copies to the HOA side. Karen did not speak at first. That was new. The gate contractor opened the system manually, while everyone stood in the damp gravel. The red light turned green. The steel gate slid aside. For the first time since Friday night, the road to my cabin was open. I drove through slowly, not because I needed to be dramatic, because I wanted the cameras to record that I entered calmly, legally, and under court order. The cabin had some water in the crawl space, but the pump still worked. There was no catastrophic damage, though the delay had made cleanup worse. I photographed everything. Back at the gate, the county planning and code officer arrived to review the installation. He looked at the gate permit, the road corridor, the survey, and the injunction. He asked the gate contractor how the system would provide continuous access for the cabin parcel. The contractor said they had installed what the HOA ordered: resident decals, keypad, visitor pre-registration, security guard protocol, and license plate control. He said he had not been given the recorded easement. The management representative looked at Karen. Karen looked at the road. The county officer said the gate operation could not continue in resident-only mode while it obstructed recorded access. Ravenwood needed a compliance plan, permanent access for the cabin parcel, revised signage, security guard instructions, emergency override, no unauthorized fees, and no pre-approval requirement. Until that plan was approved, the HOA could not use the gate to restrict the corridor the way it had been designed. That meant the Clubhouse Road became a problem for everyone. Residents could not simply use the new gate system as advertised. The HOA had to disable parts of the resident-only function, post temporary notices, and restrict certain clubhouse traffic while the legal and county review continued. Some event parking had to be moved. Deliveries had to be scheduled differently. Security guards had to stop denying access based on membership status. Karen had promised residents a secure amenity road. Instead, she delivered a court order and a broken access plan. The legal points were now obvious. My cabin access was permanent. The HOA security policy could not override it. Guest registration could not be imposed on an owner's deeded access. A road maintenance fee could not be invented after the fact. A gate blocking the only route was an obstruction. The Clubhouse Road was not exclusive if recorded rights crossed it, and Ravenwood's own permit problem showed they had installed first and checked title later. Paul sent a follow-up demand. Attorney fees, court costs, survey costs, cabin inspection and cleanup costs, lost access damages, correction letter to all security staff and residents, written acknowledgement of access rights. Gate redesign at HOA expense. Karen still tried to blame me. She told a resident who asked what happened that an outside cabin owner had exploited a technicality to weaken community security. That resident sent me the screenshot. Paul added it to the file. Technicality. That was Karen's word for the deed that let me reach my cabin. The HOA meeting happened Thursday night, and it felt less like a meeting than a storm waiting for a roof to come off. Ravenwood residents were furious. Some had lost clubhouse reservations. Some could not use the new gate system they had paid for. Some had to park farther away for the pool and event lodge. Some were angry that the old security setup had been disabled before the new one even worked legally. Most had no idea a cabin parcel behind the Clubhouse Road had recorded access. Karen had not told them that part. She opened the meeting with a speech about safety. She said the clubhouse security upgrade was designed to protect residents, prevent unauthorized use, reduce liability, and modernize access. She said an outside parcel owner had challenged the system at the worst possible time. She said Ravenwood was working with counsel to defend resident interests. Then Paul stood up. He did not raise his voice. He put the deed on the screen. Then the recorded easement. Permanent vehicle access. No obstruction. No fee. No exclusive resident conversion. Then the old plat. Then the developer agreement. Then the county permit file. Then the security newsletter. Then my email asking how access would be protected. Then the management reply saying all authorized users would be accommodated. Then the video. Karen standing at the gate in the rain, saying, "Your old cabin paperwork doesn't override our security gate." The room reacted before the video ended. Not loudly, more like a collective realization that the phrase sounded worse in public than it probably had in Karen's head. Then Paul showed the sheriff incident report. Then the injunction. Then the county notice requiring gate compliance. Then the cost list, court fees, attorney fees, survey. Gate redesign, security retraining, possible cabin damage, clubhouse access disruption. A resident near the front raised her hand. So he actually had legal access before the gate? Paul said yes. She turned toward the board. Then why was he denied? Karen said the policy had not been fully integrated with legacy access issues. That was the first time she admitted legacy access existed. A man in a Ravenwood tennis jacket stood up. So we locked him out of his cabin, and now our clubhouse road is restricted because of it? Nobody answered. The treasurer looked down at his papers. That was answer enough. Another resident asked whether the board had performed a title review before installing the gate. The management representative said they relied on existing road use assumptions. Paul said, assumptions do not defeat recorded easements. The gate contractor was present too. He explained that his company installed the system according to HOA specifications and was not provided documents showing a non-resident access right. That shifted more pressure back to Karen and the board. Residents wanted to know who approved the fee, who approved the guest policy, who told security to deny non-residents, who reviewed the easement, who decided to move forward without confirming the cabin owner's rights. Karen tried to return to safety. She said Ravenwood could not have unmonitored outsiders driving through the clubhouse zone. Paul said my access could be monitored without being denied, charged, delayed, or converted into guest status. That was the core of it. Nobody was saying Ravenwood could not have security. They were saying Ravenwood could not use security as a weapon against recorded access. The county officer explained that the gate system had to be revised. The HOA needed permanent access credentials for the cabin parcel, updated signage, written guard instructions, emergency protocols, and possibly a modified gate layout depending on final review. Until then, full resident-only gate operation could not resume. Residents did not like that. But now they knew why. At the end of the meeting, the board voted to comply with the injunction, provide immediate access credentials, negotiate fees and damages, suspend Karen's authority over security decisions, and commission a full title and access review before any further gate work. Karen voted against the motion. The room noticed. Her security gate had become her public collapse. The first access remote arrived 2 days later, then a permanent keypad code. Then written security instructions stating that I was not a guest, not a trespasser, and not subject to resident visitor approval when accessing my cabin. The road maintenance fee was withdrawn. The 48-hour registration rule did not apply to me. The guard booth received a printed notice with my parcel number and access rights. Paul made them rewrite that notice twice. He said the first version sounded like Ravenwood was granting permission. They were not. They were acknowledging a right. That difference matters. The settlement covered attorney fees, court costs, survey fees, cabin inspection, cleanup from delayed access, travel expenses, and damages for interference with recorded access. Ravenwood also had to pay for gate redesign, updated software, legal review, and county compliance work. The clubhouse road stayed disrupted for weeks. The new resident-only system had to be reconfigured. Signs were changed. The camera angle was adjusted so it did not imply my cabin road was part of a resident-only amenity. Security guards were retrained. The gate contractor lost the follow-up maintenance contract because residents blamed the whole project, even though the real failure was the board's instructions. Karen did not survive the next meeting. She tried to defend herself by saying she had acted to protect residents. She said modern communities need modern security. She said old access documents should not expose residents to risk. She said the court order was temporary and misunderstood. A resident asked why she told me my paperwork did not override the gate. She said it was taken out of context. Someone played the video again. That ended it. Karen was removed as HOA president. Ravenwood adopted new rules after that. No gate, barrier, camera, keypad, security booth, license plate reader, access policy, or resident-only system could be installed near a road, driveway, easement, or outside parcel without title review, survey verification, county permit review, and attorney approval. No fees could be charged against outside access rights without recorded authority. No security guard could deny access based only on resident status where easements existed. No board member could describe a deed as old paperwork in an official access dispute. That last one was not written exactly that way, but it should have been. I went back to the cabin the next weekend. This time, the gate opened. No argument. No red light. No guard telling me to apply as a guest. I drove past the clubhouse, past the pool fence, past residents watching from a distance, and down the old road toward the creek. The cabin smelled damp but safe. I opened the windows, checked the crawl space, cleaned what needed cleaning, and sat on the porch while light rain tapped against the tin roof. That sound had never felt so good. Later, I put a small sign near the cabin turnoff. Deeded cabin access, court order verified, no HOA guest approval required. It was not meant to be aggressive. It was meant to be clear. Because unclear boundaries invite people like Karen to invent authority. A security gate can look powerful. It can have steel bars, cameras, software, keypads, guards, logos, and policy manuals. It can make residents feel like everything beyond it belongs to them. But a gate is only legal if it respects the rights already recorded beneath it. A keypad does not erase an easement. A camera does not rewrite a deed. A road maintenance fee does not appear because a board votes for it. And calling an owner a guest does not make him one. If an HOA ever locks you out of your cabin, driveway, road, or land behind a security gate, do not destroy the gate. Do not tailgate in anger. Do not give them a video of you losing control. Record calmly. Get the deed. Pull the easement. Check the county permit. Save the emails. Call an attorney fast. And if the access is urgent, ask for the court order they never expected you to get. Karen thought the gate made her powerful. The injunction made the deed louder. She locked my cabin behind a security gate. My court order closed their clubhouse road.